Hi guys, welcome to this video again. If you're new here, then it's awesome to have you. We're going to be taking a look at the track that I wrote for the Vital preset bass pack, which is called the Bass Box. If you didn't know, if you want to check it out, link is in the bio. We're just going to be having a look at how I approached writing the track. So that'll mean looking at a few of the presets, but also it'll kind of have some tips in there as well, and maybe some foundational things that we can add on top of what was on the previous video if you haven't seen that, with the interview with Sam Griffiths, and it's a great insight. Before we get into that though, if you would like to like and subscribe, that would be really helpful. I also have a Patreon as well, so if you want to become one of my patrons, then that would be amazing. We've already got a few. Thank you so much for your support, guys. It's meant that I can actually create this video and not feel too worried about how much time I'm putting into it. So yeah, that is really helpful. Yeah, let's just get straight into it, shall we? So first of all, we're going to take a little bit of a listen, and then we'll talk about how I chose the sounds and why I chose to use them in the way I did. Okay. So as you could hear there was lots going on, but it's all kind of encompassed into the ethos of the track, which was basically just to let you hear some of the best sounds in the preset pack and how they use. So if we just take a little listen to the end just of the basses, we'll get that out of the way first. So as you can hear there, we've got a lower foundation, which is doing sub, and a little bit more of higher stuff that will essentially add texture. Then we've got some clicky bass sounds that are arps, one that's going da 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 da, and then a double which is da 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 da, and then also we've got this high Brahms siren kind of sound as well. Is very useful for the start of hits, or just to add a little bit more aggression. Okay, so you can see here the first one that we've got is a Jeff Odyssey. So on the top layer, we've got some evolutionary kind of rolling, which you'll see if I just have a look at the automation. You can see there I'm just rolling up and down and gradually adding intensity towards the climax to add some of that high metallic sound, which I programmed into the actual preset. I'm using exactly the same sound on the second one, except for this time when I'm approaching the sound, I'm thinking it needs to be bass orientated. So instead of letting the highs through, I'm letting the lows through. And if you have a look at the sounds, I'm just rolling off a little bit of the top end just so it doesn't get too piercing, because with every sound that you have, even if you take all of the high end out in your presets, then it's still sometimes the filter lets a little bit through. So it's a just in case thing, but I've done that anyway. And yeah, just to say as well, this is exactly the same thing as Sam was doing in his other video, where he had a high layer doing something that he was gradually building into a climax, and then a lower sub sound that was acting as the weight. It's a good example of what we can do with two sounds that might not sound great on their own, but together create a moving piece. Okay, right, let's have a look at the clicky bass pulse. So the present bass and the clicky bass pulse, they're adding some rhythmic interest. Okay, yeah, so that you can hear there as well that the present bass is actually being panned with the Pancake, which is just a free plugin you can get. That's fantastic. So it's adding some interest, and you can hear that it's not coming straight into this and then straight into that and straight into this. It's moving just a bit, so you can, as soon as you start to hear it more in this, it stops and then it goes into this ear, because it can be quite distracting if you have too much of that. Then finally we've got the Brahm. I doubled this up with the Jeff Odyssey second one because there's a little bit more aggression that comes through in the Jeff Odyssey right at the beginning, and then it's filtered out. Wow. So you can hear that, yeah. So they're both kind of doing the same thing. And that is everything in terms of the presets that I did, just so you can take a little look at the presets. Okay, so that was all of the bass sounds. Now let's move on. So I've called it harmonic-y, synthy stuff. I needed something to add a little bit more harmonic interest. And this is a really, really good thing to remember when we're approaching anything, really. If we look at classical music, for instance, often what they did is they would work in unison and octaves in early classical and mid to late romanticism. And that added huge weight to one part. So you could see that in my examples earlier, everything was stacked in octaves or in unison. And that's just because that's the main part I want you to hear. I want you to hear the bass line that goes bum, bum. That was the thing I wanted you to mainly grasp. And then everything else after that is just harmonic content. So if we just take a listen to that harmonic content that I added. Okay, so this is just everything else around that. Yeah, so that those two notes aren't included, except for those organic strings, which are a Spitfire mangled kind of sound that I've used. And then a little bit further down, I've used an Arp just to kind of add a little bit more of that rhythmic movement. And that Arp is just a stock Alchemy preset, so you know, I'm not opposed to using them. It was absolutely fantastic when I found it. I was just like, yes, that is exactly what I need. And that is situated higher up as well, so that it doesn't get in the way of any of the other information. So yes, it's adding more rhythmic interest. It's avoiding the notes that were in the bass. At least for the majority, there are some parts that it does hit on. And that's it really for harmonic interest. And then we went to the percussion. Now actually I started off with this drum sound. And at first that's what I was going to use. So if I just mute everything else underneath, then this is the sound that was nearly going to Sounds great. Maybe I should have kept that in just to add a little bit more weight underneath that snare som in hindsight. But either way, it was very good. So if we listen to the percussion parts, I'll tell you what I was doing. Grand. So yeah, I added snare and I was just doing a kind of straight 4-beat, but I also created this raw voltage thing, pitched. Wow. And that's just, it's doubling up really with that idea of the siren that we heard earlier on. So it's just strengthening. And then I created these raw voltage snares. So I bounced them out. And they are very, very basic. And then talking about layers again, I took 3 snares that all had things missing and I added them together to create a snare that I liked. So if we start with the first one, I think the raw snares, it's actually just a high snare, snappy sound. Almost like sticks. Second snare, add a little bit, well, all of the low stuff together. Brilliant. And then the kit snare, which is more of an organic sound. So add in some of that attack all together again. And then we are using the some rises and stuff that I've either created myself or taken from Keep Forest. A little bit of both really, because I couldn't find anything that I'd made myself that I actually wanted in here. Okay, so these sound like this. And grand. You can see as well under here, some of them have pancakey stuff on them. They've all got some kind of reverb. I think it's Valhalla. And then I've got this Percussion GFX. Great. It's a tremolo, and it's the best one I've found, and it's free. That is something that I highly recommend everybody go and get. And then here, just for the hits and whatnot, and I think that's a cymbal sound as well, maybe from Damage 2. And maybe a hit. Just adding a lot more weight to the kind of dub R&B kind of thing that we had going there. So that is everything really. If there's any questions that you've got, please drop them down there. Again, big thank you to everybody. If you want to join our Discord as well, we've got a load of people who are just waiting for you to have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a chat about music as well. So thank you so much, and we'll see you for the next video. Bye.